And that's the kind of common sense that we're talking about here. And there is no sheriff in this country that has any type of legal or moral obligation to go along with federal tyranny and the absurd practices of socialism that are being shoved down our throats in Washington, D.C. And probably the most prevalent right now is that most sheriffs, especially in the West, aren't going to put up with any more gun control from Washington, D.C., and I believe that most sheriffs, when they see what's coming down the pike with H.R. 45 and other gun control measures that Obama and his administration are going to shove down our throats, that this is going to be the key issue that is going to get sheriffs to wake up. But I hope to wake them up right now, and I'm doing seminars across the country, and everybody needs to get this book in their hand. First, the people need to read it, and then they need to get behind their sheriff, because this booklet, as you pointed out, is irrefutable evidence that the sheriff is indeed the ultimate authority and that he has the duty and responsibility to protect his people from the federal government.
Now, by the way, Sheriff Richard Mack, how can people get this little booklet? I read it last night. It's very short, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah, 50 pages.
It's very dense. It's 50 pages long. It tells you everything you need to know. How do you get it? How can the people get it, Sheriff?
It's short because I believe that the Constitution is short and that this message needs to be short. You don't need 1,500 pages to explain this. And if it's too long, people aren't going to read it, especially sheriffs. So anyway, you can just go to Sheriff Mack, and Sheriff is 1 R and 2 Fs, so make sure you spell it right. But Sheriff Mack, M-A-C-K, like the truck, okay? So Sheriff Mack sorry, I started to get my email. SheriffMack.com. Just go to the website. If you can't get on the web or you don't want to pay with a credit card, then just use the P.O. box that's there, or just email me, and we'll work out another way. I actually prefer silver. If you send me an ounce of silver, I'll send you back 2 books. And several people have done that, and that's fine too. So just send that to P.O. Box 971, Pima, Arizona 85543, and that address is on the website, or just email me at sheriffmack@hotmail.com, and I'll make arrangements with you to get you these books.
Now,
but again, the easiest way is just go to Sheriff Mack, M-A-C-K, SheriffMack.com.
SheriffMack.com. All right. Now, a realistic scenario, because again, I know that you understand this, Sheriff Richard Mack. You deal with this every day, but for the rest of us, we're struggling here, gasping to relearn all of this, to understand that this is not a movie scenario.
No.
And this is today. This is not High Noon with Gary Cooper. This is 2009 with Richard Mack.
Right.
All right. So suppose a realistic scenario. Suppose this H.R. 45 is passed, which it could. We know that Mr. Big Ears, the illegal alien presently usurping the Oval Office, lied about gun confiscation. We know that he is a huge gun confiscator.
Right.
Suppose this thing passes, and the federal government now starts to come in and exert pressure to take away the guns. They come down the streets in vehicles. What should the people do? Tell our people here. Listen,
we need to be well. First of all, we need to be much more preemptive and proactive before that occurs. And I believe that the sheriffs need to get together in the states. For instance, the state of Texas. The state of Texas is not going to put up with that gun control law. So what do? Well, the first thing, the Sheriff's Association of the state of Texas, which has 254 counties. And I've never lived in Texas, but I am very familiar with there, and I'm going to be speaking in Winsboro, Texas, on the 13th, and in Fredericksburg.
Later on in our conversation, I want you to give all the details about that.
Okay. And anyway, but I can get some websites out for that too. But the main point here is that the sheriffs need to recognize what kind of criminality might be occurring, and that's whether they're dealing with federal crime or regular street crime. You need to try to stay ahead. So the sheriffs in let's just say Texas or Arizona or Utah, it doesn't matter where, need to get together and and then send a unanimous letter with all of their signatures to the White House and to Congress saying, It doesn't matter if you pass one more gun control law or 50 gun control laws. They will have no effect in the state. There will be no one allowed in the state from either the federal government or within the state of Texas that will allow any more gun control infringements against the Second Amendment in our counties or in this state. And if there's a sheriff who doesn't want to sign it, who doesn't have the cojones to sign it, then I guess he is inviting the federal government to come and do their program there. But I think that this is just one of the things the sheriffs can do. There's lots of other ones they can do. But I think putting this out and letting them know right up front beforehand is the best way to go.
All right, let's take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll do some business. We'll be back in just a few moments with much more from Sheriff Richard Mack. Stay with us. Sheriff Richard Mack, you brought up the case of Texas. And since you did that, I'm wanting to ask you, there are, as I understand it, 44 of the 50 states have open carry. In Arizona, correct me if I'm wrong, I know that's where you are.
Right.
In Arizona, you can just strap a hog leg on your side
correct.
and just
that is
stroll. Right. And now, even in California, I did not know this until recently, until one of my sons told me this. Mm-hmm. In California, in unincorporated parts of the state, mm-hmm. you can walk around with open carry.
Right.
And even on Wilshire Boulevard, you can walk around with a hog leg on your hip if you are keeping the ammunition in a separate place on your
right.
belt.
With the way the police are over there, I wouldn't recommend it because.
But it's the law.
It is. You're right.
It is the law. But,
You're right.
But here's my question: in Texas, Texas is one of just 6 states that do not have open carry. You have open carry in Vermont, which is overrun with Yankees.
Right.
But they have open carry.
Right.
But Texas, and the only reason we even have concealed carry is because of that maniac who broke into Luby's and started shooting, and Dr. Susanna yes, got into the legislature and forced this through. Without her, we wouldn't even have concealed carry. What is wrong in Texas?
I don't know, but it's time for the sheriffs to rectify the whole thing. And I believe they can do it, and I believe they will do it. And I believe, seriously, like my book says, that they are our last hope. I don't think there's any other hope beyond this. If anybody thinks that we're going to get our freedom back from Washington, D.C. politicians, then I've got beachfront property for you in Omaha. It's absolutely absurd that somebody thinks that any good is now going to come out of that cesspool of corruption and iniquity. Quite frankly, I think that if God doesn't strike Washington, D.C. down, he owes Sodom and Gomorrah an apology. Because it is beyond corrupt in that place. It is bought and paid for. It's all based on greed and power and money, and neither party has done anything to stand up for the principles of the Constitution or the principles of American idealism. And now it's time for the sheriffs who have sworn an oath, Texas sheriffs, Arizona sheriffs, Utah sheriffs, Idaho sheriffs, doesn't matter where you are. If you have taken an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution like you have, then that's what exactly the people should depend on. Now, let me quote just real briefly. This reinforces everything we're saying.